All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
I love the colorful clothes you wear and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of a gentle word on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations.
And welcome back to Hour 2 of tonight's show. And what a guest we have for you tonight on this hour. The second hour of the X Zone Radio Show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, coming from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and for all our friends in St. Catharines listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. We're going to be talking about metaphysics, spirituality, UFOs, and higher consciousness this hour. My guest is Barbara DeLong, and Barbara has been a seeker of the mysteries of spirituality and a practitioner for over half a century. Well, at least that's what she'll admit to. During that time, she has become a podcast host, an author, artist, lecturer, ordained minister, and documentarian. Barbara has painted the Cosmic Deck of Initiation, a hand-painted deck of Mandala cards, to be used for private divination and spiritual growth, and wrote the book, How to Use the Cosmic Deck of Initiation. Her website, barbaradelong.com, is a teaching site combining personal information and a plethora of spiritual material included and intended to supply sight and light, laughter and love for all those seeking their own pathway within spiritual spheres. Joining us now is Barbara DeLong, and how are you, Barbara?
I am terrific, actually. Very excited about tonight because there's so many changes going on everywhere that it's a good time to talk about the energies that are going crazy.
Tell me more about this, because I've noticed a lot of things that are happening that just make no sense.
Exactly. And the reason they don't make sense is because we don't have the frame of reference to pay attention to what happens at a time like this, when we go from the age of Aquarius into the age of, we go from Pisces into the age of Aquarius. When we go to a new level of understanding and consciousness, everything does have chaos around it. That's the only way to put it. So you can look at, social situations and, yes, there's anger and yes, there's rioting and stuff like that. Always happens at a time like this. And then on top of that, you look at the earth changes, you look at the sun flares, you look at the earthquakes that are happening in places that they haven't happened in before. We've had dozens of them here in Nashville. And Nashville is, of course, tornadoes,
That's
not
right.
earthquakes. And you have volcanoes erupting. You have all sorts of natural things happening. And when that much craziness goes on, everybody reacts in a different way. But usually it's a time of major frustration in all areas of life. And this is a time when governments are destabilized and all sorts of amazing things happen.
What are some of the amazing ones? Because what I see is a lot of negativity in a strength that I haven't seen before.
Well, a lot of that has to do with fear
Hmm.
because everyone's going through changes, whether they're economic or whether they're physical or whether they're suddenly seeing things more clearly and there's a sense of anger in them. And because that sense of anger, because there's change and they don't want change. Um, Frankly, change is a good thing,
Sure.
but it's kind of like because they have that anger in them and it feels as though it's a group thing. There's almost the kind of energy that happens when you get carried away with something
Hmm.
and you just don't know what you're doing, but you're going along with the flow, and the flow happens to be in a negative area. So when you talk to, especially kids, when you talk to kids at some of these riots, at some of these upheavals, they can't tell you why they're there, just that they're protesting for the cause, but they don't know what the cause is.
And they don't know how their protest is actually going to affect the situation.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. And so, we all feel this in one way or another. The
Hmm.
more mature you are, the more spiritual you are, you recognize that there is a change, and you start to work on working with that change and becoming you don't have it may not be a change you like, but at least there's a change and there's a way of channeling your energies in different ways so that you don't get swept away by a group um chaos that is going on. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Even in the grocery store, I mean, well,
Yeah.
the prices are
Oh,
horrendous, but people are they used to be friendly, they used to smile, and now they're just angry. Eh,
it's true. It's true. You see it all over. Here I am up in Canada, and we're seeing this right across the spectrum, right across the board. Whether it's in a grocery store or whether it's in a parking lot or driving on the QEW, there seems to be a level and intensity of anger that we're not accustomed to. So how can we stop feeding these energies that are negative, and how can we protect ourselves from them?
well, it's not just locally, it's globally.
Hmm.
Look at what's happening or about to happen in Taiwan and the Ukraine and Israel. It's everybody wanting to stop it. And it's a matter of where you are inside of yourself. If you just want to lash out
Hmm.
because you want things to go back to normal. And I have to tell everybody there is no normal anymore. What we have to do is get through this time and establish a new normal. And in the United States here, it doesn't matter who wins the election, there are going to be riots anyhow.
It's going to be
So,
interesting to see what happens in November in your elections.
yeah, it is. It's going to be
Yeah.
very interesting. Um, but as far to your point, if you are of a spiritual nature, and I'm not talking religious, I'm talking spiritual, although prayer never hurts. But if you're of a spiritual nature and you understand that inside of you is a spirit that has to experience everything that's coming your way, and how you deal with it is going to determine in the long run how you go next lifetime and beyond that. So that it's a matter of being creative in any way you can be is I guess the best suggestion I can give to everybody, because creativity opens the threshold to spiritual energy, enables you to sort of surmount whatever it is you're facing.
Are there certain things that we can do to prepare ourselves for the days and the times to come, Barbara?
Well, um, yeah, actually, I have suggested to everybody that they have a bug out kit for their car, just in case, in my case, a
Hmm.
tornado hits and you have to take off and you need to have food and water for a couple of days or whatever. I've suggested that those, who are, I would have a supply of water and a supply of food, because there's a chance that there's going to be a blockade and there will be food shortages and things like that. Um, I know the last time during the pandemic when we had a shortage of all things, for
Oh
heaven's
my gosh,
sakes,
yeah.
toilet paper. Um, But I would stock up on things that you know that you use a lot of, and if we make it through this time frame, and I don't see there being a real shift at all, majorly until probably about March or April. So we have it's not an overnight thing. We're going to have to learn to deal with shortages. I would suggest strongly, if any those who celebrate the holidays with gifts, that you shop now. You get your gifts now because there's a good chance that there will be a blockade of ships, and that means that anything on those ships will not get through to the stores, so there will be shortages in the stores, and that will eventually come down to food as well.
Are we basically repeating patterns from the past?
Absolutely. Astrologically, if you look at this over thousands of years, every time we go to a new age or a new level of consciousness, there is major upheaval, governments fall, all sorts of things have to be rebuilt, and sometimes there is an event of if not mass destruction, a great deal of destruction. You can look at what's going on and logically feel what's going to happen, but this is a time where logic and reason does not apply. But we have gone through this. Humanity has gone through this. Mass extinctions have happened
Right.
at least 5 times.
So
Um,
is this what some religious philosophies call the end of the world or the end of time, or is this just the end of a segment that we go through time and time and time again?
It's like the Mayan calendar. It's like the Native Americans have. We are going from one time to another. We are going from a time of, in many cases, ignorance and not paying attention. There's a term: if you slumber, they will plunder, and it's happened. And so now we're recognizing the plunder, we're recognizing the lies, but there's been such indoctrination into political places and in just the economy that we're being taken for a ride, and now we recognize it, but the powers that be have been indoctrinated and infiltrated, so that it's not a matter of just getting one person out of the way. It's a whole system that needs to be redone, rearranged, and it's going to be rather phenomenal to watch.
Barbara, you and I have to take our first break for this segment, so please stand by. Exonation Barbara DeLong is our very special guest this hour, www.barbaradelong.com. And, wow. Is it the end of the world as we know it? Is this just part of the cycle of life? We're going to talk more about this when we come back from this break. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, and Mutual Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
I hear the sound of a gentle wind on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane.
Barbara DeLong is our guest. BarbaraDeLong.com is her website. And Barbara, is there a possibility that what is partly behind all this is something that we've called over the years the New World Order?
Um, no, the New World Order is not behind this, but it's something that will take advantage of this. They are trying to create a New World Order,
Mm-hmm.
but a New World Order, and I believe at some point in time, way in the future, there will be a New World Order, but it will be one that comes about through peace.
Ah,
It will not be one that comes through manipulation and dictatorship and all of that. We're too young for that. When we started out, when the world started out, it was one continent. There was one language. There was one people. And then as plates shifted and things drifted apart, everything changed and took on their own different identities so that we have the world that we have today. But there's no way any of the countries that are out there today would willingly go into a one world order and let some of their enemies be in
mhm.
control of them. This is not going to happen.
Well, we've seen what chaos the European Union has caused just by bringing that very small part of the world together, and in fact, as we all know, Britain out. Um,
Mhm.
is this part of an alien agenda then?
No, and and I'm not saying there are not. I'm going to call them extraterrestrials because the term alien, at least in the United States, refers to people that are flooding in from over the borders.
Yeah.
But if you're talking extraterrestrials, I do believe that there are extraterrestrial wise people that have come through interdimensional portals that have from time to time given humanity wisdom and all sorts of talents and gifts that we use to grow to this particular point in time. I'm not saying there aren't UFOs. I'm sure there
Hmm.
there there are, but I've seen one landed on my campus when I was in college. But I believe truly that what we see in the air are more shuttles or drones of some sort. And I don't think we're in line for an invasion, but there have always been entities that were not the same species we are that have come through portals that have mixed into society in hopes of helping us to grow and evolve.
Boy, we must have let them down quite a few times.
Well, I think Bigfoot is one of those. I think Bigfoot comes through interdimensional portals, and that's why you can't find Bigfoot because they come and go at will.
Could you share with us your UFO experience?
It was 66. I was in college. The
Hmm.
States me terribly. And yes, I'm 80 years old. Um, they had locked us into the dorms, and we heard on the radio, and it was in the 60s when there were all sorts of swamp gas and UFO sightings, and it was crazy time.
Yeah.
And J. Allen Hynek was actually in Michigan as well, looking at some of the things that had happened. And we heard on the radio that a UFO had been spotted on the campus of Eastern Michigan University. They had halted the air traffic in the three airports that were around us, and there was a couple of um, military bases there too. So, it was a big deal. And we heard police cars rushing towards um, onto the campus. And we could hear their radios talking because they had windows open and they were loud.
Hmm.
And we heard them say, "We're going to turn." It's landed on the baseball field. "We're going to turn the stadium lights on to get a better look." Now, there's no better way to sneak up on a UFO than to have sirens screaming and floodlights turning on. Great
Yeah.
intelligence there. So we're There's a building between my dorm and where the baseball field is, and
Mm-hmm.
we saw the lights go on because we could see the glow in the air,
Right.
and then we saw this saucer raise up, and it swooped over my dorm. It felt like at the time that it paused there. I don't think it did, but it felt like it paused there, and it blocked out the sky, and then it went. It was gone. No noise, no air disturbance, nothing. And so, there were people screaming, there were people hiding, which was ridiculous because the thing had gone. Um, but people panicked like I have never seen. And the person standing next to me didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So my theory is that it has to do with a level of consciousness. Not that I'm brilliant, but that I was at a place where I was accepting for this, and I was ready to see it, and she wasn't. And you could talk to you could talk to some people who saw something, and then others who saw nothing. People dropped out of school because of it. I stood in line and got to the payphone because we didn't have cell phones and stuff like that then. And I put in a person to person call to my mother. And before the operator would let me put the call through, she said, "Are you on the campus of Eastern?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Did you see it?" And I said, "Yes." Had to tell the operator before she'd put the call through.
Unreal.
So as we came up on midnight, when the news would be on, there was no mention of it.
No way.
And yet, on the campus was being patrolled by two officers and a police dog every half block, just about.
You'll have to excuse me for a second here, Barb. I just received a message from my producer, Craig, in Master Control. And this is from our newsroom talking about UFOs. Let me see here. I'm just going down to the summary of the report. Apparently, now this is from CTV News, their investigative news department. It was just released a little while ago. A U.S. F-22 fighter shot down a UFO on February the 11th, 2023, shortly after it entered Canadian airspace in the Yukon Territory, which borders Alaska. It was one of the three aerial objects blasted out of the sky that month following a high-profile downing of an apparent Chinese surveillance balloon shot down over Alaska, Yukon, and Lake Huron between February 10 and 12, 2023. The three objects were reported much smaller than the towering Chinese balloon. At the time, officials described the Yukon object as a suspected balloon that was cylindrical in shape. A reported Pentagon memo said it appeared to be a small metallic balloon with a tethered payload below it. Released as part of the Freedom of Information package, an email from the Canadian Brigadier General offered what they described as the best description that we have of the Yukon UFO object, and this is what he said: visual, a cylindrical object. So right now there's apparently a big investigation and push on going on into what has actually been cited by CTV News as a mysterious object, and CTV News is going into the Freedom of Information Act and also contacting members of the military, both in Canada and the United States. So we'll keep you abreast of this happening. But talk about a coincidence. Here you and I are talking about UFOs, and this report comes over the wires. So nobody reported this in the media. This UFO that had landed, and you seen, and other members of your classes dorm had seen it. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, now there is a UFO museum, and one of the exhibits in it is a group of co-eds from Eastern Michigan University pointing to the sky. This was one of the authenticated UFO sightings that Hynek could not cause swamp gas. And there was a book called In Focus many years ago that cited a lot of the authenticated sightings, and the sighting on my campus was one of them.
Why do you think that there are those who believe that UFOs aren't here, extraterrestrials aren't visiting, and this is all a bunch of bunk?
Well, prior to 1947, when Roswell happened, UFO sightings were very common. And it's my opinion from all of the research and stuff that I've done, and I was married to Patrick Hook, who wrote UFOs in the Bible, so they've been around for a long time. I think they're drones. I think a lot of them are drones. I don't think they're spaceships. I think they're drones that have come through interdimensionally. And after 47, you don't know if what you're seeing is a real UFO that is of an extraterrestrial source, or if it's ours or Russia's or Japan's or Germany's, or any of the many nations that are trying to either reverse engineer what has been shot down in the past, or if it's our own stuff. And today it's hard to tell. I mean, we've got so much stuff floating up out there in space with space stations and all sorts of space junk. It's hard to tell what's a UFO. I mean, UFO is only unidentified flying object.
And that's because we don't know what the heck it is.
Yeah.
You and I have to take our break, my dear friends, so please stand by. Exonation Barbara DeLong is our very special guest. Her website is www.barbaradelong.com, and we're going to be talking to Barbara about metaphysics, spirituality, higher consciousness, and much more as we return on the other side of this break. Wow. Just imagine that. So many questions, so few answers. It seems that whenever we come up with one answer, it's got 20 more questions. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
It sounds like disaster is your favorite tune. If it makes you feel better, get it out of your system and tell us about the next big cataclysm. Okay, the poles they will shift and volcanoes will bellow. LA's gonna disappear, New York turn to jello. There'll be tidal waves, earthquakes, fissures and crises. The earth's gonna be screaming, you can all kiss my axis goodbye, bye, bye. Earth changes, earth changes. If it's like they said, then there's no use hiding out under your bed. But don't get depressed and run off to the bottle. The earth's trying to tell us it's time to remodel. Earth changes, earth changes. Less greed will be nifty and house up our peace. For a big polar shifty, a whole lot more love. And a big dose of patience. Coming alive to the joys of creation. Earth changes, and so can we. changes. Earth changes. Earth changes.
And there we have Earth Changes by Michael Horn. And Michael, as everyone knows who follows ufology, is the North American representative for the Billy Meyer Society. And I love that song, and every time I play it, I think of Michael. I've had the pleasure of meeting Michael a number of times. And he's very in-depth. He's very in touch with the changes in the Earth, and I know that he and many other people are doing their best to get the message across that, hey, we've got to do something because we're just messing up this great, beautiful planet of ours. It's got to, we have to turn things around. I know a lot of, I know, Barbara, that a lot of people out there still say, it's a conspiracy. There's nothing going on. Yeah, well, tell the polar bears that, who have no more ice floes to hunt from. Tell the people who are in countries now where there's no water. We're going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah. But it's also a natural cycle that the Earth has gone through and will go through again and again and again and again. The last time there was an ice age, the level of the oceans were almost 400 feet different than they are today. And, they're now discovering all sorts of cities and stuff like that are on the ocean floor, and they can't really figure out why they're down there. But the reality is 400 feet is a lot. And so we just don't have the frame of reference to be able to see the cycle that the Earth, the planet is going. Planet's millions of years old,
right?
Billions, whatever. Yeah. But we don't have the time frame with what at most 120 years. We don't have the ability to understand the kind of change that is going on today. The plates are changing. I'm in Nashville. We've had this year even more than last year, but we had weeks of temperatures in the 105 and 110. The farmers don't know when to plant and when to harvest, and there are going to be even more shortages of water. But the polar area is melting because the Earth is tilting in another direction. Our North Star, our North Pole is moving, and when we have that kind of change, the ice melts. I don't know. There was a time when Antarctica was at the equator. So this planet has been through shifts and changes that we can't even fathom.
But I don't think that at these other times during these shifts that these changes also had the cause of man's industrious way of living. There wasn't the carbon emissions and there wasn't all the pollution that we're putting not only in the air but across the earth, in the lakes, in our land. What? We're just screwing ourselves here.
Yes, we are. And there's no way that is going to stop until it becomes so critical that there's no other choice. And you can't tell a government that they have to stop drilling or they have to. The only thing governments are for is to build an army and to wage war.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
Stop and think about it. If there's no war, you don't need a government. But we seem to have been clustering ourselves in tight little groups and not willing to work together to do anything. Eventually humanity will take itself to the brink, and hopefully we don't go over the edge. But when you look at the political situation in so many different countries, why do they want to grab land, and in order to grab the land, they're destroying it? What's the point? There is none. I know that in Russia it's said they're trying to put together, the USSR as it was 50 years, 100 years ago.
Hmm.
But what's the point to that?
Well, I don't know what the bottom line to that situation is, but when you look at the globe in general, it's there's too many people. There's not enough food to sustain life on this planet right now. And something has to be done. And another reason why I think wars are so easily, how can I say this without putting my foot in the other mouth? Um, why why there's war is because war creates jobs. I hate to look at it that way, but it creates jobs that is good for industry, and it also, you know, takes care of some of the population. I know that's a wrong way to look at it, Barbara.
Well,
But
when you look at it, when you really look at it, there is enough land for everyone, but most people are clustered around the coastlines.
yes.
And they're I mean, if you look at I mean, I don't want to destroy the rainforest, but look at South America.
Hmm.
I mean, there's tons of land there. Was fortunate enough to drive across the country a number of years ago, and the amount of land that is there, that can be planted. The government in the United States pays farmers to not plant.
Now, why would they do that?
Well, because it has something to do with keeping the price of food and grain and everything at a good place. But they do that. Many farmers, do very well by not planting anything. Um, I think that our way of living is what is getting in our way. The one thing that we went by at one point, and I don't know what state it was in, but that it was the wherever they have the slaughterhouses for the cows and everything, and that was horrible. I went off meat for a couple of months after smelling this and seeing these animals just crammed
Yeah.
together and then slaughtered. Um, there's got to be a better way. But we have the land. There is plenty of land for everybody. But it's a matter of dispersing the population around where the land is. Australia is a huge, huge place, but they again are basically on the coastline. Um, and I don't know about Russia, but I'm pretty sure most of their land is not populated, heavily. So that it's a matter of there's plenty of land, and if the farmers were allowed to plant, there would be enough food. But I know in this country, farmers have been paid to not plant for decades.
But wouldn't it be better for the government to allocate land in the interiors in order to disperse the population from the heavily populated areas? And in these areas where there is so much land, like they used to do way back in history, they used to give settlers land and for them to farm. And there's so much free land available in Canada and in the United States in the interior that I think that this would be a great project for any government to get back to and say, all right, we're going to give you so many acres of land, it's going to be yours, but in return we want you to grow crops. And if the farmers don't like it, too bad. Get back on the bandwagon and just tell the government, no, we want to grow our crops, we want to feed the communities, we want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that makes me feel safe in
Hmm.
America because any country that would want to take us over would could not possibly use nuclear weapons to get us, to get us to capture us because it would destroy the land, and it's the land they want.
But if they were to use electromagnetic um, devices, that would conk out all the electric grids, it would conk out all the all the machinery, all the hospitals, all the navigational equipment, and then they could easily just march right in. But let's look at the brighter side of life.
Well,
Let's all just get together, come up with a solution. And I believe in people, Barbara. I really believe in people. And I believe that each one of us has a little piece of a jigsaw puzzle in our pocket. And all we need to do is get on a giant-sized table with everyone, take that little piece of the jigsaw puzzle out, put it on the table, and work with everybody to come up with that solution, and then we would put that jigsaw puzzle together. If we could only do that with these kind of problems, I think that we could surpass any problem. We could beat any problem. And I do believe that we actually can live in harmony.
oh, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But then you get into the place where people are power hungry. And when people are power hungry and they want to assimilate wealth and power, then they begin to manipulate people, and then
Yeah.
everything gets screwed up.
Barbara, I have
Somebody-
to take my break. Please stand by. Barbara DeLong is my special guest, Exonation. Her website is barbaradelong.com. And we'll be back as we wrap up tonight's show with this segment from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario on the Exxon Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and in St. Catharines on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming around the world on classic1220.ca.
If it makes you feel better, get it out of your system and tell us about the next thing.
I was waiting for so long for a miracle to come. Everyone told me to be strong. Hold on and don't shed a tear. Through the darkness and good times, I knew I'd make it through. And the world thought I had it all, but I was waiting for you. Hush, now I see a light in the sky. Oh, it's almost blinding me. I can't believe I've been touched.
And welcome back, everyone. Barbara DeLong is my special guest. And Barbara, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always a great pleasure talking to you. And you and I both agree, and I'm sure that there are thousands of people listening to us tonight who are saying, you know what? We feel the same way. So why can't we get everybody on board, Barbara?
Well, because it starts with the individual. And you're absolutely right. And I don't, I know this all sounds gloom and doom, but it's not. It's to awaken us up individually to understand that there has to be a love of self, a love of the culture, a love of humanity, a love of the world. And if you have that love and that light and that laughter in you, you can conquer anything. And it's just a matter of, the as we spoke at the very beginning, there's anger out there.
Sure.
And if you let go of the anger and say, well, okay, so how can I help? And start with yourself, because if you don't love yourself, then if you don't love yourself, nobody else is gonna. So
That's right.
it's really important to get your act together and work on yourself and work on your creativity. And if things seem to be falling apart, that's a good thing, because it means you can build something better.
And if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Right.
Yeah. So how do we start, Barbara, you and I, and the members of the Exo Nation who are with us tonight? How do we start making that difference happen? I know how to do it. You know how to do it. I'm sure thousands of other people know how to do it. But yet there seems to be the majority who have no flaming idea of what's going on out there.
Yeah, and because and they don't want to know. And they don't
Ah,
and I think it's that they're so fearful
mhm.
of change that they are going to cling to what is awful rather than letting go of it and saying, screw this.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a small community here. Let me work with my community to help other people that need help. Instead of looking at things falling apart around you, and they are,
Hmm.
and they're supposed to, so they can be built better. Start building a solid foundation. And I'm not talking necessarily, though church is someplace a lot of people go. I'm not saying don't do that and do stuff within a church. I'm saying that the important thing is that you start to reach out to everybody around you, not just those who are the same religion or the same race or the same culture. It's extending yourself outwards and beginning to feel the love of of a culture, of a species. We all came from the same place. We all came from the same creator. And even whatever extraterrestrials are out there came from the same source. So we're all alike, even though we may not look or speak or behave the same. We came from the same place, and find that piece of other people that you can resonate with and build from it. And and it's not, I don't want to be smushy and just say it's loving everybody and stuff like that.
No, no.
But I do think the element of light and laughter has to come in here, because if you can laugh with other people,
Yeah.
and by the way, a laugh has no language. A laugh is global.
I love that. Can I use
S-
that?
Sure,
Thank you.
spread it around.
I'll do my very best, Barbara. I'll do my very best. I promise you that. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your cosmic deck of initiation cards that you hand
Mhm.
painted. Would they be able to help us in these trying times? Would they be able to give us any guidance? Any?
Absolutely. And what's cool about them is there's an app for the
Hmm.
telephone. There's an app for the Cosmic Deck of Initiation as well. The deck was designed and developed for a person to find their own spiritual pathway and to guide them along that pathway with understanding of the cosmic laws and the universal energies that are constantly at work. It's a deck that you can use for prognostication, but it's a growth one. It's to give you insight into how you are moving along your pathway. And on my website, I put out there a card of the week,
Hmm.
which has the meaning of each of the cards. So, and what's really cool about it, it's from the app, and the meaning of the card and how to incorporate it into your life to a greater degree. Um, it's there as an audio as well. I've read the meaning of each of the cards from the book into the app, so that if you get the app, you've literally got the book. Um, but it's a deck that helps you to understand the deeper meaning of things like love. Like, love is not a weapon, yet most people use it as one.
That's true. That is very true. And you see that in divorces and separations, and they weaponize their their lack of empathy and their lack of love for each other, and they use it as a weapon with the children.
And when you find somebody that is giving you trouble that you
Hmm.
just can't stand, the real reason is because you see a part of yourself in them. And if you see a part of yourself in them, find and make the correction in yourself, you become a better person, and your animosity goes away.
My wife, in her wisdom, once told me the answer to every problem a person has can be solved by looking in the mirror.
Yep, absolutely
Yeah.
true. And that's what makes me crazy sometimes. The answers are so simple, and so many people want them to be complex. And I took a workshop for expanding my consciousness for 24 weeks, and my life is not any better. and you got a piece of paper that said you did 24 weeks, but you didn't change yourself.
That's the biggest flaw I think that a lot of people have, is that they don't want to change themselves, and they don't want anything that is too simple, because if it is simple, they can't blame the results on the complexity of the solution.
Nope. It's an amazing world.
It is.
And if you think about it, we only use 5 to 8% of our brains. Now there's got to be a reason where, the rest of that brain is there to be utilized. DNA, they don't understand most of the DNA. And the reality is that DNA holds the Hall of Records for our spirit.
Mm-hmm.
It holds so much information, but we have to be able to expand ourselves to a point where we can accept the wisdom of the spirit that we carry within us. And when you open to that spirit, it's an amazing amount of flow of energy you get, and life takes on an entirely new perspective.
Barbara, we have about 3 minutes left. What are your final thoughts, and what words of wisdom would you like to share with the X Zone Nation tonight?
I guess the biggest thing I want to say to people is, don't try to make things like they used to be, because that's history. Focus on creating a new future using your creativity and your love, and the fact that you have the power to do so much if only you learn to love yourself first.
Well said. I had a friend who once told me, Rob, we're here for a good time, not for a long time. And then he looked at me and said, mind you, it all depends on how you play the game. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, if you're true to yourself, you'll be true to others.
Uh-huh.
And if you lie to yourself, you're going to lie to others. So he said, in the words of Shakespeare, to thine own self be true. And I said, wow.
And not only that, but you create your reality by your perspective of it.
That's right, you do. Barbara, what was your inspiration for making your deck of cards?
I was truly inspired. They were channeled. And I'm not an artist, but I painted all of them. And it came as a homework assignment in a spiritual development class I took. And for some reason, I was open to an energy, and the patterns came through. I painted over 500 personal mandalas.
Wow.
And then I did the cosmic deck, and then I stopped painting, because that was the only reason I painted the mandalas. And 30 years after I painted them, I wrote the handbook for them. And that's the handbook that's out there, and that's what's in the app that is on that it's on the you can get it at the website, Cosmic Deck of Initiation, and it came through me, not of me, because I'm not an artist.
But you are a wonderful person.
Well, I've been around a long time.
Oh, no. I always say that women are like a fine bottle of wine. They improve with age.
I would agree with you.
Barbara, what's up next for you? We've got about 35 seconds. What are you going to be doing next?
Working on a new book, 101 Spiritual Questions.
Love to have you back on when you've finished your book so we can share that with the X Zone Nation. Barbara, it's always a great pleasure talking to you. Please let our listeners know where they can get your deck of cards, as well as any other thing that you have available that would help them to be better people in a better world.
Well, the cards are on their own website, Cosmic Deck of Initiation.
Mm-hmm.
The cards, the book, and the app are all there. And the books that I've written are on Amazon. You just look for my name, and there they are. There's Before Roswell and Whispers of Spiritual Wisdom. And then the website has a ton of information on it.
Barbara DeLong, X-Zone Nation. Thank you, Barbara. Take care of yourself, and I'll look forward to the next time when you and I chat here in the X-Zone. Until then, be well, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye, Barbara.
Bye-bye.
And that's it for tonight, X-Zone Nation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern as once again we cross the time-space continuum, all right, to this place that I call the X-Zone. So until tomorrow night, to all my wonderful members of the X-Zone Nation, my senior producer over there in Master Control, Craig Webb, and my wife, who is our top executive producer here, the lovely Laura Rogers. Always, X-Zone Nation, remember, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.